Welcome back to Light the Fuse. Wait a minute, Charles. This isn't Light the Fuse. This is Light the Wick. What am I talking about? We are chronicling the making of the John Wick franchise 1 week at a time. Are you enjoying this process, Charles?
I am. I think this is awesome. I love these movies, and it's really cool. It's like a kind of fun change of pace. You know, I'm excited to talk to all these really amazing artists that are involved in this other franchise.
Yeah, I mean, when everybody's making a Mission Impossible movie, it's kind of hard to talk to people about Mission Impossible movies. So we get it. And yeah, I think this has been a lot of fun. I'm really happy. We've met some really amazing people and artists and technicians, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. We've got somebody really fun today. You want to tee this one up, Charles?
Yeah, so Luca was the costume designer on all 3 John Wick movies. So it's cool. It's cool when we can get somebody who's worked on the whole franchise. And not only that, he's also an actor in John Wick Chapter 2. So that's pretty fun. He actually plays the tailor in the movie. So we get to talk to him about that. We talk about other stuff. Before we get into the interview, though, I wanted to just talk about a couple of things.
Sure.
We got a message on Twitter from Jonathan Barton, who sent us, he said that we were talking with Matthew in our Matthew Pearl interview. We were talking with Matthew about when Tom Cruise first ran on film, and we were wondering when that happened. And Jonathan sent us the clip from Endless Love, which was Tom Cruise's first movie in 1981. And he does, in fact, run in that movie. So Tom Cruise's Twitter bio, his little profile says running in movies since 1981. And that's absolutely true. He did it in Endless Love. So we can include that little clip in our show notes for today's episode.
Great. Thank God we've got that sorted out.
Yes, thank you to Jonathan Barton for sending that to us. Yeah, have you seen that movie? I've never actually seen that movie.
I don't think I've seen it, no.
It's fun to see Tom Cruise. He's so young, and he's kind of like a cocky, shirtless guy playing like soccer in a field or whatever, and runs over and has a few lines. It's fun. So we'll post it. You can take a look and see Tom Cruise running 40 years ago now, actually.
Wow. That's making me feel old, Charles.
I also wanted to say I revisited Hard Boiled, which I hadn't watched in decades. Probably not since the 90s. Or maybe I saw it in college again. I think I still have the Criterion DVD of that, which is out of print. But that company, Hong Kong Rescue, did you buy the Blu-ray from them as well?
Yes, I did. Yep.
So I watched Hard Boiled for the first time in a really long time, and that movie's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I had forgotten how good it is, because I always think of The Killer as really his best movie, and I think of Hard Boiled as like fun but not as good. But that company, Hong Kong Rescue, which I recommend again looking up if anybody's interested. They are doing The Killer if the guy ever gets to it, because it's like one guy running the whole operation and it takes him forever to do stuff. But watching Hard Boiled and seeing there's that crazy oneer in the hospital where they're it's Tony Leung and Chow Yun-fat going through the hospital shooting everybody. It felt like, I know that John Woo directed a Mission Impossible movie, but it actually felt more like John Wick than it does Mission Impossible.
Interesting.
So I don't know. It made me think of John Wick watching that movie and seeing some of the staging and the way they did things. It's very clear the way that John Woo's staging of the shootouts, but it's in particular that one where it's a long oneer that goes through all these different hallways. It goes in an elevator, goes on another floor, and it shows them, shooting all these people, and it felt John Wickish. So I just wanted to bring it up. That's all.
When I was making that list of long oneers, I put that on the list.
Oh, you did? I remember that. That was a great article.
Yeah, you helped me with that. Gave me some great suggestions, some off the beaten path suggestions.
I think when I read the article and I saw that, I think I just still forgotten about how great it was or how long it was. I don't think I realized that it went into the elevator and up onto another floor. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah,
that whole climax is really interesting, and if you read about it and how they did it, it's pretty mind blowing. But Charles, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah, I wasn't even talking, but go ahead. Sure, interrupt me.
I just got some people to plug.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon, and everyone should check out his podcast, My Favorite Album, where he talks to musicians, songwriters, actors, and filmmakers about the music they love and how it's influenced them and their work. And he's had people like Casey Musgraves, Drew Pearce, Charles Hood, all these amazing people on the show.
Drew Taylor.
Yeah, I was there too. We keep waiting for him to take us on individually and to actually talk about our favorite albums, but he'll never do it because he's a coward. But, one day he will. This episode is also brought to you by John B. and Real Estate Interests LLC, commercial real estate advice for growing companies. So if you're a company, you can consult with them. Even if you're not looking to buy or sell, they help companies save and strategize too. So check them all out. We could not do the show without them. And we'll be back afterwards to wrap things up, right?
Yeah, so enjoy Kevin Blumenfeld's legally dissimilar John Wick-ish music.
We are so lucky to be joined today by Luca, who you are not only the costume designer for John Wick, but you are actually a member of the Assassins Underground Society, correct?
Correct, yes. I am the tailor in Rome. I am the maker of the bulletproof suits for John Wick. Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, yes.
Well, yeah, if you need to stay alive in those fights, I am the person. You know who to call.
How did you, I know we're jumping around right now, but did you sort of talk your way into that role? Did they have anybody cast? Were they looking at actors and you said, listen, guys, I can handle this? Or how did that happen?
No, it is quite the opposite. I didn't have any desire, any dream of possibly acting. For me, Chad and Keanu are people that I know from having done John Wick 1, but never had any intention. And we were getting very, very close to the day of shoot, which was the very first day of shoot. And I was asking Chad, so have you cast the tailor? I need to know, because actually the seamstress, she was supposed to be female. And I said, could be an Italian mama type, or she could be a very small Asian body type. I need to know. I need to prepare the costume. And he said, it's going to be a guy. And I said, oh, God. So a guy, a tailor in Rome, is going to be in a three-piece suit. I mean, I need a number. I mean, give me some information. Tell me something. And he said, I'm looking at him. And I said, yeah, great. Just give me the number. And I'm going to call him for measurements. And you don't understand, Luca. I am looking at him right now. And I had a mini coronary, like a heart attack on the spot. My reaction was no. And then the rest is history. And I got a script, and we rehearsed, Keanu and I. And when the first AD said, and we are rolling, and action, Luca, my heart literally dropped to the floor. And I was able to do it, and it became fun. And after that, I got myself into acting school. And that's what I have been doing for a few years now. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But you still came back. You came back for John Wick 3, obviously.
I came back for John Wick 3. I'm always available for John Wick. He cannot go with the store-bought suit. No. We need to keep him safe. We need to custom make his suits. Yeah. Yes. Special material.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Bulletproof. And more.
Obviously.
And more.
So you were involved with the first movie, obviously. What was that experience like? Was it sort of a given that you would be coming back for additional installments, or
no,
what was that like?
No. I don't think that anybody was thinking of a number 2 or a number 3 or 4 and 5. We were just worried about that movie, John Wick. We were all into making a beautiful movie with beautiful visuals, and I think we achieved the goal. We didn't have huge resources, so we all had to be careful, use a lot of creativity to replace like the lack of a huge budget. and we did it. But now, when I first met Chad and Dave, because they were co-directing, never in a million years would I have imagined that this would become a franchise. So it was
Right.
just a pleasant surprise. Actually, during the filming, during pre-production of John Wick 1, we got shut down. And I kept on working.
Really?
And and not too many people believed in John Wick. I did. My producers did, obviously Chad and Dave and Keanu and all the cast. And I kept working, and I said, I really hope that the movie comes back. And the movie did come back, and it was that big, incredible success that it turned out to be.
Was that a budget cut situation that caused that?
I think that it is always about money, isn't it? But I don't have the details. I just know that it was wonderful when we came back. And I'm glad I followed my instinct to keep working, and in order to be prepared and even more prepared for the day that the movie would come back. And it happened, and I'm so proud.
That's amazing.
What was the hardest thing to accomplish on that shoestring budget in the first movie? Because there are tons of extras. Obviously, you're dressing Keanu and all the kind of secondary thugs. What was the most difficult thing that you had to achieve in that first movie?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting question. It was a movie, and every movie is a challenge, right? You never have enough time, enough money, enough resources. I just know that for me, tailoring John Wick's suit had become an obsession. And once we defined that dark charcoal suit as the main suit of the movie, we tailored it to perfection. And I remember everybody was happy, and I still wanted that little, I don't know what, and I couldn't really say what it was that I wanted from that suit. And so we called in what I call the suit doctor, this incredible tailor. His name is Brian Hamasath, and he's savvily pinned by slivers of millimeters those suits, those sleeves, the body of the suit, the pants, and the suit became perfection. There I knew that we had the suit. I would never imagine that people would dress in that suit for Halloween, but that was the suit that I had kind of dreamed of. It was really perfect on Keanu.
Wow. Did you have a sort of stylistic point of view for the other characters, like Michael or Leguizamo or any of those guys?
Of course.
Yeah, and Michael has this amazing red shirt with just the colors are amazing. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm so glad you like it. That was kind of the introduction into the world of the Russians that play such an important role in John Wick. Like if you go see John Wick 3, I mean, those colors, when you have those Ruska Roma, we used to call them, that was all coming from John Wick 1, those deep reds and blues and greens, and that's how it all started. And what I like about John Wick is that we define formulas. Every character or every group of characters fits into a sort of formula. And based on that, then you have a theme and you develop the theme. But you can only imagine how much fun and how much creativity to go over the top with a group of Russian gypsies. And so John Wick 1 was really like the trampoline to start playing with all these concepts, with the palettes and stuff. And then it became bigger in John Wick 2 and much bigger in John Wick 3. And that's how it started, from all these side characters, and introducing Adrian Palicki as the beautiful assassin, like so stylish, so elegant. And each one of them having their own style and look and identity.
Was there a character that was the most challenging for you?
I mean, if we go back to John Wick 1, not really. It was very interesting to define Ian McShane's character. In John Wick 1, he came in so late that it was such a rush to do his costume. In John Wick 2, it developed gracefully into something more complex. And in John Wick 3, it became this beautiful character. And so I guess more than a specific challenge, really John Wick 1, which was a smaller movie, was the opportunity to touch up on all the different characters and establish a point of departure, a starting point from where to build on. So every character is a challenge. If you ask any costume designer, every character is a challenge, just because through the costume you say so much, you define so much. We as designers, we hope that our costumes help the character actually come to life. We are a support to the performance, to the acting, to the full manifestation of the character. So yeah, I can't name one specific challenge, but oh boy, we had many, for sure. For sure.
Can you talk about Laurence Fishburne's sort of hobo army and what it was like designing for them? And are there any sort of winks and nods in the costume design that kind of could tip off the audience that these guys are more than what they seem? I mean, is that something that you're thinking about while designing these costumes?
Yeah, well, that was a direction from the director. When we saw the headquarters of Laurence Fishburne, we quickly saw some lockers, right? Like a sort of locker room. And we quickly saw all these homeless people changing and coming out of their costumes, of their work costumes. They were wearing a uniform, and it was seen in that brief scene that they were professional killers, or they were professionals, and they just were wearing something to disguise themselves with. So that army of homeless was really very important. And I think that the costume that ended up being Lawrence's costume was so interesting because it was made of layering of different coats or different layers, and they were all cut and sewn together, and it was quite beautiful. We did a lot of research actually in New York City. Certainly you don't have a lack of visual information about homeless people. So everything that you saw, like wrapping up shoes in plastic and taping them with gaffer tape, or like garbage bags, all the details that you see in the movie, each one of them was coming from reality. And then it was augmented, but it was all research. And again, yes, they all had a purpose, but we were not supposed to show any of their inner layers or technical layers or guns or weapons in order not to give any misleading ideas to the audience.
That's interesting.
How much are you coordinating with? We spoke with Kevin Kavanaugh. So how much are you, coordinating with Kevin? Are you a little bit more on an island, kind of just designing looks for characters, or are you discussing how they fit in their environments with the production designer? How does that work?
No, I don't like the island concept. It's such a good choice of words from your part. And I particularly like Kevin. I like his personality, his style, his taste level, his skills. He's really a genius production designer. With Kevin, we had an open line of communication, and his department was always open to myself and to my people, and the same as ours to theirs. So I could consult with set decorators and prop masters and everything. It was really a very symbiotic kind of work, because at the end of the day, if you take a costume and you just plop it down in front of a set, it may or may not work. And with Kevin, we really did a lot of work together. Obviously, the John Wick costume was coming from having established that already, right, in John Wick 1 and in John Wick 2. And so there was not too much to be discussed about that, but everybody else, for sure. So I really, really love working with the production designer, Kevin Cavanaugh, or in any other movie. I think it's very important that we interact.
And so are you coordinating on, like, are you thinking about talking to them about colors and, what colors are going to be matching together in certain
colors
scenes?
Mostly, yeah. What is the scene looking like? And what is the color of the backdrop? What are we going to see mostly? Is that mostly wood, dark wood, light wood? Is that going to be wallpaper? So your wallpaper is green. My costume is red. Are we creating a Christmas tree there? Or do we really like the contrast of the two colors? Or do we want my costume to also be green, so that they can blend together and just almost disappear? Talking about disappearing, that was another concept in John Wick 3, having these shinobis, this army of invisible people coming out of the blue, literally. So blending in with a train, blending in with a wall or with the background. And that was an extremely interesting process to create costumes solely based on the environment, in order for them to be unnoticeable. It was absolutely beautiful. It was a beautiful experimentation. I think very successful.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, you think about how many of these fight sequences take place in these otherworldly locations, whether it's the mirror room in the first one or the glass kind of showdown in the third one. Is that something that you're also sort of keeping an eye on to, how much exposure these costumes will get and in these different environments as well?
Of course. And there's not so much to be done about a mirror. I mean, a mirror room reveals every detail of the costume. But that is something that I always have to be ready for, because I never know what the framing is going to be. Yes, I may see the storyboards. I mean, for those listening who do not know what storyboards are, but storyboards are really like a comic strip. It's like a movie made in little images before the shooting of the movie, right? An illustrator plans out all the scenes and all the framing. So I more or less know when we are going to see only from the shoulder and from the back of the costume. But inevitably, we are going to be seeing the shoes and the hem of the skirt, even if it is not planned. So a costume always needs to be ready in its entirety, and then whatever is shown is shown. But we know that from the shoulders up is what you see mostly in a movie theater, because that's what you want to see of your actor. You want to see the facial expression. But yeah. So,
is there ever a detail that gets overlooked in the framing of a scene or something, and you get really frustrated, like, oh, those bell bottoms or whatever?
It can happen. a jacket on a background person that has not been fitted properly, and so the shoulders do not look right or something. It can happen. I mean, if it is a period movie, you can have a Vibram logo on the sole of your boots, of your shoes. And it's a no, it happens. It can happen. I mean, yeah. That's why we are an army of people and we try to prevent all those things from happening. But sometimes a shirt has two buttons open throughout the movie and then all of a sudden it becomes one button and then it goes back to two buttons. I mean, it's not ideal, but this kind of stuff happens.
Well, I think we're both curious about in the first movie, Chad talked to us and other people have about how the guys that John Wick would kill would sort of like run around the camera and get back and sort of get killed again. And I was wondering if what your role in that was. Were you like putting on a different, lapel or were you helping in that scenario at all? What was that like for you?
Yes, absolutely. It was all planned. I mean, we didn't have the resources to hire enough people and have enough costumes on everybody, and so there were slight changes of a costume. And I think that Chad was so fantastic in that because he taught us all a big lesson. You can make things look spectacular without necessarily having the means and the resources. And he made a movie that looked a lot bigger and a lot richer than what we were able to do.
Right.
So yes, it can be jacket off or taking off the balaclava and putting on a beret or a mask or something. There are many ways to quickly change a character. It's done. It's done in movies, and Chad was a master of that. Really a genius.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
What I remember, I don't know that we will ever go into these details. So let me mention about all these stunts, all these actors that were doing the scenes. I really realized that we were doing something special because I didn't know Chad. I knew where he was coming from. I knew that he had a lot of experience. But I saw a fight scene in Keanu's house when there was a house attack in John Wick 1. And I had the feeling that I was watching a ballet, that I was watching a capoeira scene. There was so much grace and harmony and like flow in that fight scene that it became apparent that we were making a very difficult movie, not just the traditional movie with gunshots and fighting. There was an intrinsic elegance about something that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but it was happening. Yes. And that was Chad.
That's awesome.
Well, there are also sort of practical considerations, right? Like I was reading that you had to alter some of the costumes for different stunts and for, allowing more movement and things like that. Can you talk about the challenges in that?
Certainly. With a character like John Wick, Keanu is very active, very fit, and he does most of his scenes, but sometimes stunt people do specific scenes that require specific skills because the scene would be deadly for an actor. And the stunt is hired, yes, possibly on looks or in a way that it can look like the actor, but sometimes that is not the case. So we had somebody riding a horse that was so much shorter than Keanu. Or we had different body types. We have people that are larger or shorter or taller. That's one challenge. So to have a size range of clothes that can be worn by a number of people. but also within the costume for Keanu. Sometimes when you have to, I don't know, try next time you wear a suit, try raising your arm or doing a split, a kick in mid-air and see what happens. You probably tear your jacket or you can't lift your arm. And so we fill the jacket or the crotch of the pants with little inserts of fabrics, little gussets, and we put in additional fabric. We make it possible for the costume to move. We add lycra inserts and stuff. So there's a lot of tailoring going on. All stuff that is not seen in the final movie because it is so quick, right? But there's a lot of it going on. A lot of multiples. One of the challenges is really managing the number of multiples in a movie like John Wick.
There's so many great new characters that came about in John Wick 3, and I just wanted to ask you about each of them specifically and their look, because they're so distinct. One of them is the Adjudicator. Can you talk about the look of the Adjudicator?
Yeah, the Adjudicator. I am so fond.
And where that came from, you know?
Yeah, from research, from sketching it out, from visuals, etc. And then the costume really comes to life in the fitting room. That's where you put it on and you realize what is working and not working. The Adjudicator, Asia Kate Dillon, was such an enigmatic person, character of power with a grace and an elegance. So we needed a jacket, we needed a suit, we need the counterpart of the guy's suit in a very romanticized, feminine way. And we wanted to make sure that they, Asia, would be comfortable in their movements and that they would still hold the power while looking so glamorous in their costume. There's quite a bit of vintage out there in Asia's costumes, and I had a couple of Thierry Mugler jackets, and that was a dream come true for me to be able to do that. And also choice of unusual pants, so she was wearing joppers, but never letting go of that severe, kind of imposing, authoritarian power that
Right.
I think we have been able to convey through their costume. And then again, Asia is such an incredible actor and has such power in their gentle delivery that it was wonderful to dress them.
And okay, so next, Angelica Houston, the legendary Angelica Houston, who's so great in John Wick 3. Talk about her look.
Well, when I knew that Angelica Houston had been cast, I wanted to quit because there was nothing that I could possibly do to make her happy. She's such an iconic, incredible, fantastic actor, right? We all know what she's done and how iconic, like you said. And it turned out that the costume that we built on Angelica was so perfect because she was Russian, she was a gypsy, and so I wanted lace, I wanted a shawl, I wanted something like over-the-top jewelry, and we did that. And working with Angelica is such an incredible pleasure. You should see the power that comes out of this woman during the fittings. She's a tiger, she's a lioness, but in a gentle way. But the way she poses for the camera, my costume is nothing. She just gives it life. She just she holds an incredible power, incredible strength. And I really love that red shawl with the fringes and so much movement, and nobody believed in the shawl idea, and I sewed it myself. I sewed it in my apartment. I bought the beautiful red lace, I bought the beautiful matching red fringes, and I got on the floor, cut it, sewed it one night, and that became the costume. Sometimes things happen that way in filmmaking. So happy, so beautiful, so proud.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then Halle Berry, because
My
there's
goodness.
something really interesting about her character. I read that you based her look on indigenous nomadic people, near Morocco. Is that something like that?
Sure, we did a lot of research in order to come to these characters. Also, please note that even if I'm taking all the glory, and right now the interview is all mine, and I am superstar Luca Mosca, I couldn't be doing anything without the support of the unbelievable team that is behind me. So when I say we researched, it's what it means. There was an army of people researching, swatching, embroidering, building. Yes, most of Halle's costume was made in Morocco because that's where most of her action happened. We shot something in New York that didn't happen in the final movie, so it was mostly Morocco. I had done a lot of research before going to Morocco. The New York Public Library had amazing material on original North African textiles and jewels and all of that. But once we came to Marrakesh and we set up shop, and once we realized that we had the best embroiderers to our avail, that became paradise. And we started embroidering and looking at artifacts and based on nomadic tribes, based on nomadic costumes. And that's how that gown, like sheer robe, came to life for Halle. So yeah, lots of research, all based on something that existed historically and then fantasized. After all, we are dealing with illusion here. We're doing something very Neptunian, right? Movie making is all about an illusion. So we take something and we make it better, glamorous, intriguing, fascinating.
What was you mentioned that Halle Berry shot something in New York that didn't end up in the movie. Was there a plan for her character to be in New York City at some point in the movie?
Well, you always shoot extra footage, I guess, and we shot something that didn't happen, that probably didn't make much sense with the story. Also, I think that when a director ends a shoot like John Wick 3 and he has basically a 6-hour long movie and he is tasked to bring it down to an hour, I mean, you have to make a lot of painful decisions there, a lot of beautiful scenes that need to be cut because you have shot so much wonderful stuff. Also, you have Halle Berry. How talented is Halle? She's an incredible actor. And so no matter what you shoot with her, it's going to be beautiful, right? But then you had to make the movie into a 1-hour movie. So how do you do that? I guess it's part of the process. It's happened to me many times before. Basically, in every movie I've ever shot, there's a lot of shot and unutilized footage, just because someplace, somehow, something has to be left behind.
We got to know what that is, though, Luca. What can we act out the scene? You can be Halle Berry. I'll be Keanu Reeves. What are you doing in New York? That's...
Well, we had John Wick 4 and John Wick 5 to explore that. There's more coming. There's more coming. So, yeah.
Does that mean Halle Berry's coming back?
I have no idea. Charles. I wish I could give you this kind of answers, but That was a question you should have asked my buddy Chad. Yeah,
Right.
He's keeping things to himself.
he should.
To himself these days. Is
Yeah.
there somebody from the franchise that you would look forward to dressing again, or someone who you want to come back in these subsequent movies? I think Leguizamo sat out the third one, so maybe he could come back. Is there anybody else who you really are dying to tailor again?
Well, I had such incredible, special, and very connected experiences with all these wonderful actors, and I'm very fond of all of them. Laurence Fishburne, I hope I can see him back. Halle Berry, I mean, she's a spectacular actor, right? And a wonderful looking person. But the person itself is so warm, so accessible, so incredible to work with. So, of course, Halle and Angelica and Ian McShane. I mean, I'm fond of all of them. I want every single one of them back. As you can see, I could be working at the United Nations because I'm a great diplomat, but I really mean it. I didn't have any bad experiences with anybody. And it goes without saying how amazing that I was given the opportunity to work with Keanu 3 times in a row. So I so welcome and so hope for the opportunity to do in 4 and 5 with him again. Talking about nice person, accessible, gentle, kind, appreciative. He's an amazing person and actor and everything. An athlete. You need to be an athlete in order to be in John Wick.
Right.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
I'm curious about the there's the increase in budget in the sequels. How many people were in your department? You were talking about your great team that helps you accomplish all the amazing, costumes that you have in these movies.
Right.
What was the difference in size of your department from movie to movie?
Well, also keep in mind in John Wick 1, we stayed in New York and we had fairly small scenes. Yes, we had a big background scene with a lot of extras at the Red Circle, right? The club. Other than that, it was a fairly limited type of cast situation. And then in John Wick 2, we went to Rome and we went to the baths of Caracalla and we shot that glorious party scene with the concert and all the background. And that's where my team grew and it was huge. I had dozens and dozens of people. We all had name tags, and I said, really? Costume department? People that I had never met before because we had to dress so many extras. And we had, I don't know how many huge tents we had in order to put together all this incredible work.
Right.
Same thing in Morocco. In Morocco, it was huge. You saw those scenes. And there is a beautiful scene that unfortunately became very, very short in John Wick 3. And it is Keanu walking through a big party scene with extravagantly dressed people. And that scene again was much faster in the final cut than I thought it would ever be. But that scene, it took so long to put together. All the costumes were made and there were hundreds and hundreds of extras. So yeah, wow. Every movie grows exponentially. And then you need a team to manage that, to physically prepare it, to get ready on the day of, to be able to shoot it.
I wanted to ask about the kind of tone of the movie, something that Charles and I really love and part of the reason why we wanted to do this podcast. But how is it for you in terms of creating costumes for all these different groups, whether it's the High Table or the Laurence Fishburne sort of homeless army and, even the girls working the switchboards and to have these different groups feel like they're part of the same kind of heightened universe. I imagine that is a challenge, and I would love to hear you talk about that.
Well, I think that's a challenge that an artist is happy to undertake. And not only for myself, when I'm talking about the artist Chad Stahelski. Can you imagine how difficult it must be to commit to making a switchboard room with all these suicide girls, right? Covered in tattoos and piercings, but still wearing a very romantic pink shirt, sleeveless, and that tight gray skirt. Like, it's a big risk you take because you don't want to make the scene comical. You want to make it otherworldly and, like you said, beautifully heightened reality. So it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Fittings, photos, research, illustrations, and then understanding that that's a risk you can take. So talking about the mood, very, very important, and a lot of work goes into it. John Wick is a fabulous movie because you can go larger than life. So when you're doing a group of Russian gypsies, again, I keep repeating myself, but that was so phenomenal. You can cover them in jewelry, open those shirts and put them in bright colors, and it would still make sense. It works. And again, it's a lot of going back and forth between the director, myself, my team, the production designer, and everybody is involved in that. And that's really what I love about the John Wick franchise, that you get to dress these families, these groups of actors, of people that all belong to a specific family. And that becomes a movie within the movie. The Moroccan Assassins. How fun was it to buy the original Moroccan fabrics, to age them, to put them together, to build them, to do the multiples, and to start sometimes really from white fabric. And because in Morocco they have such incredible craftsmen, go from there, dye them, sew them together, embroider them. I had a couple of more than two actually, but the main embroiderers, they used to make their own thread. Like here in New York, we would just go by the thread. They had a teeny filament, and they would just walk from one side to the other of the warehouse, stretch the filament, twist it together, and create their own cording, with which they will go to a sewing machine and just do it by hand. How incredible is that? So again, going back to the mood, you can do that when you had the different families, the Moroccan thugs, the Russian gypsies, the people at the Red Circle, the New York assassins who storm the house in John Wick 1, or the homeless people. It's just so beautiful, so creative from a design standpoint.
Was there ever an idea that Chad gave you that you said, this is just too crazy?
I'm thinking, I want to say yes, but I cannot think of an answer. So I guess no. No, I cannot recall of any. Chad gave me many ideas that were challenging, but not crazy. They were absolutely beautiful. This idea, for example, of the shinobi that had to disappear in the background. How beautiful is that? So hiding in plain sight. If you're in front of a dumpster, your costume is the same color of the dumpster, and the hood is maybe the color of the wall that we see behind. So you completely camouflage. Like, how crazy is that, and how difficult to accomplish? But yeah, we did it.
I know that Mark was cast pretty late in 3 as well, and there was another actor for the role. Like, had you already done costumes for that actor, or was it?
Yeah, we had done costumes for the other actor. It was very unfortunate. He got injured, and so there was no way. And we were ready. I did the costume fitting on him on crutches. He was on crutches.
Oh my God!
But it's a very physical movie. How could he? Very unfortunate. So Mark Dacascos came in late, and again, what a treat to work with Mark.
He was fabulous.
Yeah, and such a nice person. I don't know. Do you see that? Do you see that in the movie? Do you see that Mark is just a lovely guy? Does it show?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think Charles and I have wanted to hang out with him though since the mid '90s. So that could be our bias too of wanting to just hang out with Mark Dacascos.
So
but
nice.
I know we got to wrap things up, but I wanted to ask you if you had a favorite movie, and it could be because of your designs or it could be for another reason. But did you have, of the 3 John Wick movies, do you have a favorite?
Well, when you ask me this question at the end of one of the John Wicks, I would always choose the last one.
Right.
And I would say number 3 for sure. I mean, for me, going back to Rome was really, really special. It was really making peace with Italy, the country that I left so many years ago for so many reasons. I'm a happy New Yorker now. So it was fantastic to go back to Italy and have so much fun. But going to Africa and having this wild adventure in the Sahara, that was pretty special. So I think I will treasure that forever with extreme gratitude to the people who trusted me to put this crazy circus together. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, we can't wait to see what you come up with. And I also want to say that of all the people that we have interviewed during quarantine, you are the only one to be wearing a dress shirt and a sports coat on Zoom. So yeah, I think that needs to be pointed out to people who are listening.
Thank
that
you.
you look amazing. Yes, I just want to say that.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm only wearing underwear underneath because this is
I assume that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And this is my uniform. This is my public persona. So it's easy for me, and I love my suits. I love my shirts. And
you
no tie.
Look amazing.
No
tie.
That's a tie-free quarantine zone, so no tie. Please forgive me.
Well, we can see your little necklace, which is great. I mean, the whole look it's everything. You didn't disappoint, Luca. Is all I'm trying to say.
Good. I'm glad I didn't disappoint.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
and thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. It really meant a lot to us.
Certainly, it was a big, huge pleasure. Drew and Charles, thank you for having me.
And we're back, wrapping things up. Luca was such a character. What a guy.
Yeah.
Beautifully dressed as well. Goes without saying.
Of course.
Yeah, we should I don't know if we have any pictures of our chat, but he looked great.
Yeah, he had a really funny sense of humor. And what was the line where he said something about he could work at the United Nations because he's a great diplomat?
Yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff. Him wanting to quit because he couldn't, live up to Angelica Houston's majesty. The change to Mark Dacascos as the baddie, which is something that we've hit on a couple of times during this miniseries. I don't know if I'm sure we have already.
Yeah,
it was just really, really interesting and a lovely chat, and obviously makes you appreciate the kind of artistry and craft that goes into these movies.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that we've hit all these, major department heads very quickly in a short time in this miniseries. And so you hear Luca talk about working with Kevin Cavanaugh. You hear the different department heads talking about each other, and we're, interviewing all of them in this short run. So it's pretty cool to hear about that whole process of how these movies are made.
Yeah, it's great. I love these movies. I'm so thrilled with this miniseries, and I hope people are too. Charles, do you have any shout outs to give? Anything you want to impart?
I do have a shout out. I wanted to give a special thank you to Eddie Santos and Dustin Catalan. Thank you to Eddie and Dustin. We couldn't do it without you. Also want to thank our intern Abby Smith, and also our editor and mixer Luke Burson, and of course Kevin Blumenfeld for our legally dissimilar John Wick-ish music. And I want to tell everybody they should go to our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. Sign up at the bonus content level or any of the other levels. Every dollar counts. It all helps support this show and make it possible. Another way you can support us is by buying some merchandise from our TeePublic store, which is linked from our website, lightthefusepodcast.com. In the merch section there, you can see some samples, and then you can also link straight to the TeePublic page and buy something. And, you know, some dollars go towards supporting the show there, and then the other ones go to TeePublic. But even so, it helps the show. And also by wearing those things and showing your friends, they will see that you're supporting this show, and they'll ask you, hey, what's that? And you can say, oh my God, there's this amazing podcast. So it all supports the show, so please do that. And then also check out the episode guide on our website and check out all the show notes, because we've got some really fun stuff. We've done a really great job of building out stuff for the John Wick episodes. So the Light the Wick show notes have been really awesome. Hopefully we can keep up with it. I'm not sure how well we'll be able to do that as the baby comes and everything, but all these ones are set up already, and you should check them out. That's what else, Drew?
If you could like, review, and rate and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. We're on every major podcast platform, and doing that helps us a little bit. And yeah, just telling people about it. I love your idea about, getting the word out via shirts, Charles. Kind of walking billboards. I love that idea. Yeah. But we'll be back next week. We've got some more Wick stuff for the next little while, but it's all really, really exciting, and I hope you guys get a kick out of it. So we'll be back then.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. The doors to any service or provider in connection with the Continental are now closed.